At this time, we'll be talking politics and going into toe, going deeply into matters that concern national unity. My name is Uduak Daniel, and yes, we'll be looking into matters that concerns or borders around the call for an immediate national census to address Nigeria's data crisis. I mean, particularly this topic is very, very crucial, especially in a time like this where there is a need for an immediate national census in Nigeria to address the country's data crisis. If you recall, in 2023, the then Minister of Planning, Abdulrahim Al Hassan, disclosed that Nigeria's population was projected to be over 216 million people, but the exact figure remains unknown, and this is due to a lack of recent census. Okay, so Nigeria's last census was conducted, and this will indeed pain some of your hearts, in 2006. From 2006 up until now, that is, let's see, about 19 years, if I'm not mistaken, 19 years of not knowing how many we are in this country called Nigeria. And since then, the country has been relying on estimates, projections to plan development. However, though, this approach has been very, very much inadequate. It has led to inefficiencies, corruption, embezzlement, laundering, calling all sort of names is still the same thing, stealing from the national coffers. Because we are only a country of projection. In fact, it does seem as though the international community basically even know how many we are in this country. They even say 230 million. But here we are projecting 216, and this is based on projections. Projections. Right. And now, this is why we have had inefficiencies in addressing youth unemployment, in addressing where we see quite a large number of the citizenry without shelter. That's why we're not able to provide the essentials that should sustain life and livelihood, and that's food, shelter, clothing, as well as education access. Now let's access to education and health in different parts of the country. And nationally, we have data-driven policies, youth empowerment. We've been talking about that. We've been talking about the place of economic planning, social planning, governance, inclusive development, resource allocation. Do these pose a concern for you?
Well, not having census is a very great concern.
Right.
And the fact that we are that in a lot of things we do, we are actually not concerned. We are concerned about proper planning. Then you cannot go 19 years without census. Now, you would check a nation like the U.S. consistent holding their census every 10 years. Now, of course, UN recommendation is you should have census, at least want to run to, have their census every 5 years. Even in Africa, a nation like Egypt has been consistent with the 10-year cycle. Benin Republic has been consistent with the 10-year cycle. Kenya has been consistent with the 10-year cycle. So if we are to compare us with this nation, you will realize even Rwanda that emanated from war from 2002 till now, they have been consistent with the 10-year cycle. This, when you check this nation, right, you want to compare them with us, and you will always see that they are doing better. Why? Because they can see the figures and they know the direction it turns to. But when you come to us, we have a number of bogus assumptions that tends to favor some individuals or some group of individuals. And Some of them, in my opinion, seems to be afraid that if we actually run a census, some of the figures they are using, they are banding today to get allocation will be overturned. And because they are not comfortable with that, I think accounts for why they possibly are comfortable not having the census. For instance, a nation like England or the UK, if you look at their last three census, you will see a sharp decline in the proportion of the population that are white British. I think in the very last census, the one in 2022, you would have seen a decrease from 80-something% to about 74.4%. That tells you that at least 1/4 person in the UK today is not white and it's not it's not a white British. Now, what that tells you is, of course, we are losing the absolute majority that we used to have at over 80%. So, and I feel that there are also people within this system who, as of today, claim to be a dominant majority when in the actual fact they may not necessarily be that. I think that 19 years is too long a time to have continued to do estimates. But like I said, I am not surprised. If discos cannot give us meter to determine what we consume, and some people can easily tell us, oh, we are generating 7.5, so pay us for 7.5 megawatts and whatever. You will realize carefully that when you also go to the housing sector, they give you bogus figures. There are houses not occupied, a lot of them. But people still tell you today, oh, we have 180 million deficient housing. We keep banditing figures. And so those who are banding the figures are deriving some benefits from the ignorance of the masses to the exactness of those figures. But where we have a proper census, and I keep saying a proper census in Nigeria will tell us the individuals, their tribes, their state of origin, their religion, and their local community, as well as where they reside. So when you capture all this data, then it becomes easy to sit down and look at what is the structural content of the nation and what are the things that we need to do. If there are deficiency of houses, where are those deficiencies? And then we are able to balance up for them. You are able to be able to categorize who are the great professionals, how many graduates have we got, how many universities are there, and then you can now speak appropriately to the matter. Not too long ago, people were talking about, oh, we build elementary schools. In the Babangida regime, I think back then, census had been held maybe before the 1991 census. We have a gap of about 18 years. Now, in a gap of about 18 years, you have rolled out a national policy, which was the 6334. We have put technology equipment in schools, but there were no teachers to man them. When we built the elementary schools, for instance, what was the continuity plan? Where were the teachers supposed to come from? How was schools meant to be catered for from year to year? I don't think that those blueprints were appropriately in place. So we shouldn't just rely on some extrapolation. Nobody has actually taken the actual figure of out of school children as of today. All we have done is to do some extrapolation, and then you say, oh, there are 11 million, there are 30 million. But if we have done a proper census and everybody has been counted, then you know who is in school, who is not in school. You know who live where, you know what they do, you know where they are from, and then based on that, we can plan appropriately.
Right.
But because we have people in charge of certain things who are enjoying the bogus figures that are bandied, and so they can conveniently rip the nation off using the wrong figures. I think that is why they are not concerned.
Right.
Even in the election, you are going to see, because we have used population to allocate number of polling units, realize that in some places the polling units are in excess, in some other places the polling units are too few. We are going to have cases in some parts of Abuja where perhaps in a single environment there are 2 or 3 PUs in that particular spot, but especially that over 2,000 people or thereabout gathering to vote within the same environment. And then elsewhere in some parts of the country, they have registered 400 voters and they may even have 20, because we have used wrong data to do delineation constituency. We have used wrong data to allocate the polling areas and the polling units. And so in the end, election become difficult in some places, and then in some other places by 12 o'clock, the people who want to vote are done voting, and the electoral officers are just there idle waiting for close of poll so that they can go to collation centers. So I believe strongly that we needed the census like yesterday. Again, when you go to talking about MPC and 2023, I think if you ask me, and I have no reservation about that, in an election year, it was stupid for anybody to think of holding census inside the election. So whoever fixed the date in National Vision for April 2023, for me, was mischievous, was money that is available, and billions have been spent. And I think that those who came up with the idea deserve to be prosecuted for deliberate. That's what I would say, for deliberate mischief. There was no way we could have had a censor inside an election. So really, was my opinion.
Yeah,
until proven otherwise.
Right. A very, very thoughtful, of view. And then again, we have become a country. I stated this earlier we are a country with who knows, but then we don't know how to abide by these laws. That becomes a very serious concern. It is mostly reactive and all out the relevance of what we are supposed to days. For example, this conversation is out here at this point in time. Relation Day event that was held in Abuja, where the Victor Ume, he happens to be the Committee on National Population and Identity, said not afford to continue making on assumptions. In fact, I am quoting him, this census was 19 years ago. Every day hear that 230 million people, but some said we've surpassed 300 million. Not argue. That's how deep the uncertainty. Now, for someone of his status to come out to saying this, of him, what does it make of his duty, roles, respect to the office that he occupies, and then have to be that when there is a commemoration that is significant, some of these ministries, departments, when you see their spokesperson spearheading conversations, commemorations. In fact, one of that is that he linked the absence of credible disaggregated, especially in addressing youth unemployment, housing shortages, and education access. Now, there has also been the discourse about for the 2023 during the Buhari administration, and having said that, I mean, you touched on it just a while ago. You said is it the biggest fraud now, and those people should indeed be prosecuted. But then again, you would also note that beyond these conversations, right? Prior to this time, the talk about having a census has been there. It may not have been full blown, but it has always been a conversation that Nigerians have been yearning for, not the lawmakers representing them now. Nigerians have been calling for it. Stakeholders, industry experts have been talking about it even during the Buhari administration. 8 years came and went, and there was no time affixed for a national population census. And here we are in 2025, and we're still bickering about whether or not we should have a population census. In fact, as somebody put it yesterday, it seems like the House of Assembly is waking up from its slumbers. Do you think that this is not going to be another cosmetic conversation, such that, oh, we are just talking about it because it was World Population Day, but after World Population Day, what next? Where are we going with this? Do you also see this as serious to wanting to have a national population census in the country? And do you also think, lastly, that should we have that population census, it would have addressed most of the challenges that we faced? Because the last time was because of insecurity, because of political issues, and all of that. These were the major reasons why we didn't have a census.
Yeah, basically, I think we start with the members of the National Assembly. They are the committees that have oversight function over the national. To say that statement, for me, as chairman of Senate Committee on National Population Commission, that statement from him is irresponsible. A responsible statement from his committee, and this is where they are on the plan for the next census. And this is how we are helping them to ensure that everything they need to have the census done is in place. So if he is just lamenting like I would lament, I think it is an irresponsible statement from the senator. You don't come to the podium to speak for the optics. That bulk of our problem in the with the MDAs is the fact that the Senate has not, the National Assembly have not taken up the responsibility of their oversight function. They are the ones who start over the budget. They've gotten a budget for the year. Is it not? At the time of oversighting, sitting for that budget, what did they say they want to do? And I think that they don't have anything to say in the public space. If they lament like me, then they are not fit to be in the National Assembly. It's not a place for lamentation, hearing the issues, whether the issues be logistics, whether it be policy, whether it be laws. If I'm not speaking to that, but you are speaking to us, there were disputes. Now, you said there were war. At some point, census in Ethiopia did not cover some part of the country because there were war or there were insurgency. But at least in the areas where there were no crises, we could have done the proper census. And then you know that in those places where you say there are crises, you can go back there. And this is how that will go. We are in the modern age. INEC has biometric machines. NIMC, that's National Identity Management Agency, has biometric machines. One crisis or the other. When you go back, wherever they are, or the other. When you go back, wherever they are, after the crisis or the environment has settled down. The crisis or the environment has settled down. You go back there and add them to the database because you have already taken biometrics and no individual have double biometrics. So if you do it again and you have the line, the system will definitely match you. think that option or some people left behind shouldn't be basis why we are on census. We should have a range of days to hold why we are on census. We should have a range of days to hold it concerned. Whatever sense holding going forward must be a full ballot election, which always insists we need to know your tribe, your religion, we need to know where you are from, we need to know where you live, we need to know we need to know what job you do. Collect all the data, make analysis and projections. People are banded, okay, this state is a Muslim state. Let's have the exact figure. Make provision people to say who they are, so that in the end, when we discuss exact figures, how many foreigners are here, tribes do we actually have, what is the size and population of each, which are possibly the 10 most popular tribes. One of our graduates is to say that we are three major tribes. Like we do not agree and will never agree. Public census that history of so large than the others, but we also tell us who, where, and then we can come up with programs that will help them until it is biometrically done. We ensure that they are captured and that the relevant questions are in the form that the people will fill or will be for them. I believe that we could compare the two nations effectively.
Right.
So,
yeah.
We need biometrics and we need to collect relevant data
of the state of the nation in terms of insecurity within that was posed. Regardless of that, we do it. We can still make it happen.
That's what we are saying.
Okay.
Capture, you can capture.
Yeah.
Those that you cannot capture for now, you leave it as it is convenient. If you, with the help of the military and the security forces, capture them. But once you have done a biometric capture, right, which means that we will himself 10 times. When he gets on this, of course, the wrong capturing care off.
Right.
So if that be the case, you don't need to lock down the nation to do a census. People are free to move. People are free to be counted wherever they may be. But if you have captured the right data, even though you have found me in Uyo, and I tell you I live in Abuja, I'm from Ondo State, right? I am possibly my major tribe alienation will be Yoruba. My minor tribe is Akuku. Give me opportunity to see all that. My religion, I put it there. Qualification is there. What I do is there. And all those other parameters that we may think are necessary, right? If that is captured, wherever you are, when the data is processed, we are going to have a figure that is a true reflection of who we are.
So let me ask you a quick question.
What we have now.
Yeah, it's just a quick question, maybe for a yes and no. Between the citizenry of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the leadership of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I'm talking about the government now, which of these do you think are very enthusiastic about having a census?
Well, some people are more. Why I said that is there are people who are benefiting from the wrong figures that are available, from the assumption that is ongoing. So those who are benefiting that are ongoing will possibly not be too enthusiastic about us having the right data, because it will take away from them some of the negotiation powers that they think they have in the nation as of today. But as for the government, it's convenient for them to work with what they have.
And make projections here and there.
You
right?
said?
And make projections here and there.
Yes,
Oh, we are,
and make projections with what they have, which is very convenient, but not necessarily correct.
right. Well, we'll just put a peg to your thoughts. Let's open the phone lines, get to hear from family members. It's going to be a quick one. You want to be a part of this already. You have your questions to ask, and you have some intel that you want to also be inundated on. Let's get your voice heard already. Stick to the number I'm giving now, 0907 353 0044. The other number will be 0908 7668, and the WhatsApp portal number is 0909 705 4450. So we're looking into the matter that concerns the census in Nigeria. Call for an immediate national census to address Nigeria's data crisis. But then there's been also some talk about whether or not 2006, and Nigerians are very wary of this. As of 2000, I think we recorded 140 million people. Now, there has been a plan for digital census scheduled for May 2023 under President Muhammadu Buhari at the time, and it was postponed to allow the incoming administration during the election period, is mischievous, and such people should indeed be prosecuted. But what would be your thoughts in this regard, especially today when Nigeria is beginning to talk? And the rep member, who happens to be the chairman of the Committee on National Population now and Identity, talking about Senator Victor Ume, has come out to saying that indeed we need to really get back to talks surrounding having a population census for Nigeria. But then there's one question that I will ask, and the question will be about if over the years, let's just say 10 years ago was the last time that Nigeria was due for a census. Now, the 9 years that came after the 10 years, we still have had administration, a constituted administration ongoing. Having not, and then budgets have been made over these years, Sir Benedict, in this regard. Should we not hold the government in itself, the National Assembly in itself, and whoever was the head of the nation at the time as a number one citizen responsible for this action on the Nigerian people? Because budgets have been made time and time again only based on projections, no adequacy.
Well, basically, like I said, for me, for the last 19 years, we have had the National Assembly in place.
Yes.
And there has been committees in charge of National Population Commission. So, if the National Assembly have not found it right to declare a state of emergency on the need of national population census, I think that that committee owes the nation an apology. Now, of course, for the institute, I would always say majority of people in the public space in Nigeria get job not because they know what should be done in the office, but because they want to earn salaries. That's why you go around Abuja, you see people driving one way and road safety looks the other way. Because whoever has been posted in that environment is just more concerned about his salary and not about the work. Yes, we are not saying all of them are that, but many are like that. And so you will not expect so much of efficiency. Otherwise, how do you stay in a census office or in an office where you know it will happen at least once in 10 years? Some nations are doing it every 5 years. But in 19 years, that means somebody who joined the work 18 years ago is been due for pension. Possibly by reason of age, will be planning his retirement. And then in 18 years, he has not even seen a single actual censor conducted. But some years down the line now, you are going to appoint the same person as special advisor on national population because he has worked in the population commission for 18 years. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So what experience has he acquired over the 18 years? So we've been adding budget to budget, paying salary, buying equipment that are not used. People going for training, local and abroad, and have not been able to put those training into use. They are comfortable, and so they can make provision for roads, they can make provision. But that is not our case. But building a welfare school, the soldiers or the policemen that need to school need so much money to the location. Welfare schools should possibly, the military welfare schools should be barracks, not in towns where there are no towns where there are 40 kilometers, some even 100. But yet, because the politicians are concerned, take it to the hometown of the service chief, to that of the Senate committee chairman. A lot of things are done